Welcome to the new lab. As you all know, Lab has always been MZ's go-to platform for creating lessons, accessing materials, and performing assessments. So we're back with a brand new look. If you'll follow me along with the top, this is actually just part of the video so that you know where we're at, and then you can take a look at the sections that matter most to you or that you're most interested in. So, of course, there is a new look. It's a whole redesign from the ground up. What's majorly changed in this iteration is we have a class navigation that is always going to be off to the far left. So no matter where you are in lab, your classes will be showing, which allows you to easily toggle between different classes. As you can see, I'm doing that right now. And you can see my different students per class, which is super convenient if you have a lot of classes and you have a lot of work to do in lab at the same time. It's always there and present for you, and it's marked by this blue circle, whatever class that you're on. So you're able to also then go into your class settings from the title of your class that shows up in the main navigation, and what that will do is it will bring up all of your settings. Another thing would be that you can collapse now this main navigation once you familiarize yourself with the icons so that you can have a larger view of the entire application when you need it. What we can do now from class settings is not only does class settings hold all of your information for your class, but it also helps you customize your view for lab. So what does this mean? This means things like your grade will allow you to filter items in things like lesson library and assessments, just to clean up your view and keep things very tight for your class in particular. You'll always be able to access all materials at all times, but this is an extra step to help you see exactly the materials you need. Your assessment dates, which are optional, allow you to see the assessments that fall into initial, midterm, or final based on whatever date you set it to, which also makes your view a little bit cleaner. Your materials over here also are set by what your trainings happen to be. So if you're OG Plus trained, or if you are morphology trained, you can see materials based on that, but you can set it for the class as well. So if my second grade Wednesday intervention is only looking at OG Plus materials, we can set that right here. Again, you can see it and bring it back at any point, but you can set defaults here just to keep your views clean. What else we can do in here is we now have an abbreviation, and now we have color coding. So what that does is that allows you to nickname your classes so you can really easily tell which one is which on your navigation bar. And of course, when you hover, you can see the full name of everything. Just kind of keeps it really fast to identify, really quick to look through your classes. And of course, you add a new class from that same navigation. If we head to our dashboard, what we have here is a summary of what's going on in every class. So if I head here, we can take a look at the last assessments I performed. We can take a look at the last 5 lessons I made in Lesson Builder. We can filter this by day, week, and month views if you really need to hone in on what you're doing or where you left off. The idea is to know if you got up and took a break, where you were last and what the last thing you worked on was, with the dates and the student and everything intact. Towards the bottom, we have a quick tips, which allows us to kind of give you little pointers, especially when everyone is kind of new to the system. We will update this and it randomizes every time you return, so you can learn something new and cool about lab every time you log in or every time you look at your dashboard. We also have the implementation hub moved into lab right now, so that lives in here. If you need support, it is all right here. You don't need to leave the platform, and we are always encouraging a view of implementation hub. So if you'll head over to students with me, we can take a look at our student roster, and this is now searchable, so a lot of things in lab will be for your convenience. So it refreshes as you type, and you are able to find your students that much easier and navigate through your student roster that much faster. We can add a new student by pressing this button here, and then this is our information. You'll be familiar that you can add a reading level to that student and go from there. You'll also notice on this page that there is a group section. So MZ Lab now comes with grouping. And we can get into that a little bit later, as you can tell on the top menu. But your groups will be listed here, and you can easily add students to a group or filter by group. So when you select some students here, you'll see the group selected button, and then you will be able to add them to a group. From here, let's take a look at one of our students. They will all have a profile, so we approach Lab in a way where you can access anything that you need to from both a student perspective and the entire class perspective. This is designed specifically around somebody who might be working as an interventionist and wants to work with a particular student in one sitting, or enters one set of assessment data for one student at a time. And if you're trying to get data and look at an overview of your entire class, you can do that. We think that multiple pathways is very good for our different users and their different needs. So from our student profile, you will see a summary of what is going on. You can see how many assessments were mastered, how many assessments are complete. This kind of helps you get a sense of how the student is doing overall in the class. You also have some reporting over here on how well the student had been doing across their average assessments over the course of the period itself, over the year. And then we have their groups listed again for this individual student, and you can manage their groups from here, so you can see that you can add. But you can have a good sense of how they're grouped, what they're grouped in, and things like that. Along the top are some sub-navigation items to go through more detail with this student. So if you go through the profile, you're able to edit their profile. If you travel to assessments, you can assess this particular student. And once you've done that, you can pull reports. And if you will follow me now to assessments, let's take a look actually at a student's assessments. So we'll travel to assessments in their profile. You will see that you can filter assessments by the assessment type. We have all of these in here. We have them by their benchmark. We have them by their level. So foundational skills was selected because this student is a foundational skills level reader. And from here, we can actually look at all of our years worth of assessments just from this screen alone. So the filtering allows you to clean up your view and just take a look at what you need to do instead of what you have to do all through the year. We thought that would be helpful to keep things organized. As you can see on the screen, there is not only the name of the assessment to go to it, that's the last date they've been assessed, the number of attempts or reassessments that they've had for this each particular assessment, as well as their score. And so you'll notice that their score is the latest score, and they are color-coded. So we have color-coded mastery over 80% and under mastery, which is under 80%, as green and red. I think this is very helpful for us to look right at the summary for the student and go, what needs to be reassessed? Does the student need to be grouped for something? And what do they need to be grouped for? So we're hoping that this informs instruction and is very convenient for intervention, reassessment, and things like that. There are several assessment types now in MZ Lab, so we can travel to initial sounds, we can assess here, and then we have all new redesigned UI for each of the assessments themselves to be a little bit more convenient. Keyboard is available for each of these. They all have a left-hand navigation with some data about the assessment itself. Autofill is still in play here. You can backdate assessments as you did in IOG, and what we can do now is we can score live while you are filling out assessment answers, which allows you to, if you're cross-checking from a written assessment, to make sure that you've marked everything right and that you have matching documents and things like that. So we can do on the keyboard C and I for correct and incorrect, and you'll see that I get moved on to the next question automatically. So this allows for really quick inputs. We can reset very quickly, and of course we can autofill by correct or incorrect, so we can just do all correct here. And what this now does is every assessment now has an assessment summary screen. We thought this would be really great as a way to like print out, show parents, or see the overview of what happened. This is available long after the assessment is over, so you can come and look at this screen whenever after the assessment is done. So you can take a look at each of the scores themselves and each of the answers and what the student answered. And this is also logged in progress monitoring. We have new UI, of course, for all of our assessments. So a letter assessment now also has the same convenient left sidebar with the information that you need. Keyboard friendly, but also mouse friendly. So if you click on it and click on it twice, you get your correct and incorrect. But if I use my keyboard, you can see that I am going through and marking C's and I's for everything. Again, reset, again, autofill, all of that is working wonderfully. We can reset that, but this is built for the convenience of putting in scores much faster using your keyboard or your mouse, whichever is more convenient for you, trying to keep things flexible for all of our users. So when we save this, we will get our breakdown and we will get wrong answers scored as well, color-coded so that it's very easy to see. This kind of matches what is in the handbook. Moving on, we can take a look at a sentence, which would be in level 1. So we have read sentences, spell sentences in our sequence now, and what this is a CUPS assessment, and CUPS now looks like this, same approach, C's and I's. We have a nice big interface so that you can see everything, and then you can score it and it will come out the same way that it comes out in the assessment handbook. So just new UI for everything, making everything a little bit more convenient, having things automatically move on, and having just the keyboard and the mouse accessibility, right? So our final type that we have added would be fluency. So that is level 1. I believe that's in later. So this is called Read Passage, and what this is a very simple assessment that allows you to put in your total words, your miscues to get the words correct per minute and save that and understand where your student is at with reading passages. This can also be reported on very easily. We can walk through that in a moment, but assessments as a whole can be accessed again from the student, but also from the assessment tab itself. Again, filterable, we can look at just level 1, we can look at just words, we can look at everything, and we can look at every single benchmark altogether, or just one at a time, depending on your dates and if you set them in your class settings. Here you will see your classes, mastery, or otherwise for every assessment. So we can go back to foundational skills and get all our grades there. From here, you're able to then view an overview of this assessment and how your whole class is doing. So as you can see along the bottom, your whole class is there. Everybody is included in your roster along with their scores. You can actually hover over each of these to take a look at individual scores. Not only is it graphed, but it is broken down in a chart below if you need to work with certain students, reassess students, group students. Again, we have a group selected here, so if we sort by score, say we want to look at anybody who's below 80, we can easily pick those students out and group them, and then we can add them to where we need to add them in terms of groups. What we can also do is go directly to an assessment for any of these students, or look at their overview and their attempts from their name on the screen right here. We can take a look at another version of scoring for the class only. So in class view, not only are you able to assess individual students as you would from the student tab, but for every student for a certain assessment, but what you can do is you can go to the scores tab on many of the assessments available, and what this is there is a view of what is called like the score matrix in the assessment handbook that has every student written across it and every answer written along the sides of it, so that you can get a whole overview of the entire class and their answers. Not only do we have this as a reporting view for you to take a look after you've actually entered scores, but you can actually add scores this way. You can also export this out to a CSV to get this exact same view printable, and so that you can look at that all together. But let's add scores. So when you add scores, same approach as all of our assessments, right? So you type in, and this moves very quickly. It scores, it color codes. There's also an autofill for this. So if you autofill, all of your class gets 100%. And then a great approach to this is if there are more right answers than wrong answers, autofill as incorrect and then go back in and fill in, or correct, you can go back in and fill in your incorrects as needed. And what we have here is you can travel along the x-axis and y-axis so that you know exactly where you are with every student and with the highlighted box. So you can mass enter scores for your entire class sit in one screen. This is highly suggested for anyone who has legacy data, who has been recording things from a spreadsheet or writing it down in the handbooks. You can transfer that information a lot easier than before. And that information has use to you now in lab when you add this in there because it saves everything as an attempt. So what this will do is if I already have scores like I do now, if I were to add scores again using this UI, I would be able to add an assessment as an attempt for each student. And the students that you don't fill in anything, nothing changes for them. So it doesn't like replace it, it doesn't override anything with empty answers. This is seen as a new attempt. We now are introducing customized weekly assessments to lab, which is a very, very exciting for us. So what we can do is we can go to an assessment. Weekly assessments is in every period, so that's initial, mid, and final, depending on what concepts you're working on and what you're working on. So under weekly assessment, you will have a list of the assessments that you've made. There's an add new button here, and that the assessments are modeled after dictation. So you'll see here that you can add words, you can customize what cues they're using or if they have cues even. So you can customize the entirety of a weekly assessment, and this is a list of those assessments, and after that it behaves the same way as every other assessment in lab where you can take a look at like an overview of how those students are doing against the assessment. We can take a look at reports. We can actually do the assessment itself in here. So when we assess it, here are your custom words. You can do it this way as well. So a very powerful sense of weekly assessments lives in lab now, which allows for progress monitoring, which allows for grouping, which encourages all of that behavior and reassessing, right? So that said, let's travel to groups and see like the effect of what weekly assessments can do. So going back to students, here are our groups, and the way to manage a group is hover over it and view the options. So we have some groups here. Some suggested ways to approach groups is, you know, the assessment, these students scored less than 80, more than 80, group them together and things like that. So like I said before, you know, if we look at a weekly assessment, if we go back and we take a look at weekly assessments, we can pull students that are falling under our mastery and sort them, and then we can select who falls under mastery, we can group them, we can add them to the assessment group that we want to work with. Now when we go back to groups, we can view, and then this will automatically populate the graph with how these students are doing and then their breakdown. And again, after enough reassessments, you can go in here and go, okay, the student has mastered it, so we can remove them from this group and manage it that way, and then progress and track our students using grouping in that way. So for now, on the first launch of lab, it's weekly assessments that are being tracked in this manner and for grouping. So if we take a look at, say, let's make a brand new group, like so, what's going to happen is you have an empty area, and you can still add students for whatever reason. It does not have to be for weekly assessments alone. If you need to group students for absolutely anything else, like this is my Wednesday reading class, or this is my, any group that you want, or if you even manage small reading groups in your class and want to assess them that way, you can group for any reason at all, but we do have the convenience of having weekly assessments in which to actually assess them by. So when you do that and you assess these students, it fills in their graph, and then you can take a look at their scores and manage their membership in the group from there, which I think is actually super helpful. When you are able to have your groups assessed and reassessed and go through all of that flow, you are able to progress monitor them pretty easily through their profile. So in the student's profile, we're going to go to the reports tab, and from here you're able to access almost every report that is in the assessment handbook. You can progress monitor a number of the benchmark assessments that we have available, and there are some specialized beginning reader like the sound and letter knowledge. So here you'll see a breakdown of how the student performed against that. The benchmark analysis sheet that is available in the assessment handbook is also available in lab itself, so you can actually generate this sheet based on your students' performance, and you no longer have to fill it out yourself and do the math and flip the pages and all of that stuff. So that is right there for you and ready to be everything is ready to be exported as a CSV and downloadable for your needs. So we're here to progress monitor, so let's take a look at progress monitoring from the report types in your customization options here. So we're going to take a look at the initial period, and let's take a look at initial sounds. And what you'll see here is the actual trend graph of their assessment attempts. So here are the dates along the bottom, here's their scores along the side. And not only are you able to see that, but there's a breakdown of the answers that were given on each reassessment so that you can compare them, so that you can look at things that are being repeatedly missed. And this is available for all of our benchmarks. So you'll see, no matter what benchmark assessment we're looking at, we have a trend graph and we have a breakdown of answers from there. This is also a PDF that can be exported for your purposes as well. But this is just a really great way to get a big picture of how the student is doing, and even just look out for just repeated mistakes or, anything that sticks out, because this is color coded. If you're seeing something that you're not expecting, it's very easy to tell from there. And then we can actually, for our assessments that have a lot of letters, we can keep scrolling to take a look at the rest of those. So not only are you able to progress monitor from a top level view of just looking at their grid or just looking at their overview like so, you can actually get the answers out of the reporting as well. From here, we can take a look at Lesson Builder, which is called Lessons Off to the Side, and Lesson Builder has been completely redesigned. Now there's a drag and drop experience. There's a lot of imagery that is going to be used so that you can more properly see what modules you're using and begin to recognize things by the material type and what you're doing. And not only that, when you go customize a material, they open up in their own window. We had a lot of people say, oh, when I travel back and I'm in Wednesday, it travels me back to Monday. No more of that. So you are able to just close things. You're able to just open things and close things and stay in the editor itself. You're able to drag and drop rather easily. You'll see that happening. And then you can bring in new material and drop it right in where you want it. So from here, you can customize the house paper. We have the open closed door, we have comprehension framework, which is the entire sheet available inside for printing. And what we can do from here, let's do a 3-part drill. You'll see that it's a side-by-side editor now, which allows you to always see your material as you're customizing it. And this is on every material. It's not on just a 3-part drill, but everything is this side-by-side layout so that you can always see what you're doing and the preview updates as you go. You can print the individual materials, or you can print the whole thing. So if we have all of our modules already picked out for the week, you hit this print button and you will get a print summary. And what the print summary does is you can just hit print if you feel very confident and good about what you're seeing here, but we also allow you to do further customization. The print summary lets you know how many materials are on each day. It counts the number of whole materials if there was an expectation there, or if you always do this many per week, or if you're supposed to do this many per week. We have that available for you so that you can see that really quickly and just hit print, right? And in the old IOG, it was a little bit more customized first and then print after that, but we have either avenue open for you this time. And what you can do is you can have your day overview or your week overview, which prints everything as a list together so that you know what to do per day or per week. When you go customize, you can do the same thing. You can turn off whole dates, which will also disable it from the top. So if you do it on the top, it'll do the same thing as the bottom. So if you were in the summary view, you can turn off a whole day from here without even opening the customization screen. But here, it's basically your week overview. We have every single component that you've added to your lesson listed in order. You can uncheck individual components that you don't want to print even for that day. So totally customizable and up to you on what you want to print and why and how and all of those things. So we can turn off, since today's Thursday, we can just do Thursday and whatever you need. You can put that away if you don't want to look at it or when you're done, and then hit the print button. So Lesson Builder has had a pretty aggressive redesign. You'll see in things like if we can find like red words, every single one of these is a side-by-side builder to make it very convenient for you to use with draggable material, easily deleted, things like that, with again that preview updating every time you do something. So very excited about that. Let's delete some modules just so you can see it repopulate the side with all of the materials that are available. So very exciting, and then we can save that and head back to our lessons from the list. Now we can go to Lesson Library, which was called Quick Access Materials in IOG. It is now called Lesson Library, and here we have our filters. Like I said, these were based on what you picked in your class settings, but you can always view everything all the time. So for me, I just want to talk about OG Plus today. Let's uncheck that, and as you can see, that affects our levels. So our Latin, Greek, and options go away, only showing the OG Plus relevant grades, and that works in the reverse. If I take out Orton Gillingham Plus, you're just going to see what's available in morphology. So for OG Plus, you're going to see all of the OG Plus concepts available beneath in the concept filter, and this you'll see it change based on what you have selected. So I'm just going to select OG Plus again, and we'll see all of our concepts below. So we have 25 for first grade, we have 26 for second grade, and then we have our 32 for kindergarten. But let's look at them all at once because they get pretty different looking as you go through. So here we are doing a very image-based lesson library, hoping that our users will familiarize themselves with the material. Maybe people remember things more so by the look of the worksheet and not the name, which is totally understandable, and how we wanted to help our users out in that way. So as you travel through concepts, you'll see different materials available for every concept. Lesson Library has been extended to hold lots and lots of material, not just slides, not just a customized button, but now we're in the world of videos, we're in the world of animations, we're in the world of multi-format. So what you can do in here now is, we can take a look at one of these later concepts in OG Plus, and we can take a look at, I believe it's New Concept has a video, so you're able to watch the video right there. And you can navigate back to where you're from. And I believe in our early concepts, such as Apple, we can watch a letter formation video, which is already embedded, or you can watch the uppercase video, which is available as well. So it's all in one place. A lot of our materials to, kind of browse the multi-format idea, we would take a look at something like a decodable reader. So in decodable readers, we have everything separated out so that it's very easy to differentiate. We offer so many decodable readers, so it can be kind of tough to tell them apart. We use the thumbnail so that you can identify them that way, as well as fiction, nonfiction, which volume, and when you go to the download button, you are given your different formats. So as always, we've always provided the one-pager version or the single-sided color version through our IOG or through Lab. So it's very easy to differentiate and figure out what you need in Lesson Library now that it's separated out in this way. So, and then you can traverse in any way that you want from there. It responds very quickly. You can favorite certain materials in the lesson library so that you can refer back to it, and that would be kept in My Materials, which we will walk through in a moment. But yeah, when you go through, you're also able to, for certain items, like Redwords was a perfect example actually, you can go in and create a material from Lesson Library itself, and what this does is it creates that material independently of Lesson Builder so that you don't have to associate it with the lesson, and that will also live in My Materials. So when you go to My Materials, here are the materials I've made from Lesson Library itself that I can print for everyone. Sometimes I just put a blank in here and just print those out as I need to for any of my classes, honestly. So when we see something like my rapid word chart, this is available here, and that I can edit that from here, customize it from here. But again, you can create materials that are absolutely free from the need of being in a lesson, just for you to get to it and print it and be ready to go. Again, our favorites are also available here. Their thumbnails are available for you to see as well, so you can easily identify it, and then you can remove something from your favorites very easily. So all available for you, and we will be actually adding so much more in this area in the near future too. So for your materials, as you remember them in IOG, custom materials, they live under My Materials, and now there's a favorites to go with it. Finally, we are moving Implementation Hub, both of them for OG and Morphology, into Lab so that it's at your fingertips. No URLs, no bookmarks, nothing to remember there. It's all here, especially if you had just dealt with a material and now have a question or want to see videos on how to use or how to create certain things. Implementation Hub is now available for both OG and Morph inside of one platform. These will show based on your training level, so if you've been trained in both, you'll be able to access both. There's also other support in Intervention Center, Multilingual Momentum, and things like that. Lab support itself on how to use Lab, very important, is also in Implementation Hub, and then everything is searchable. So again, no need to remember where to go for some extra help. So if you go in here, we have our articles, we have everything ready at your fingertips. So that would be the whole of the main offerings inside of Lab. Outside of it, we do have District Admin Portal, which is this ability for districts to monitor and report on multiple students, classes, and schools. This syncs student and class data for instructors. So if you are synced and have a synced Lab account, when you first log into Lab, your students will be there, their IDs will match up, everything will already be in the system, and you don't have to go add students one by one, right? This is synced to your district. So reach out to IMSI if your district is interested, and we can actually help set up accounts and get you started, and having just that much more transparency, that much more visibility, and that much more communication between students, instructors, schools, and districts. IMSI is dedicated to providing our instructors the best experience possible. We've already started with the Morphology pilot program, so if you are Morphology trained, you will now learn, as you saw, that Implementation Hub and Lesson Library have Morphology materials. This gives Morphology instructors online access to materials for the very first time. Lab will be continuously updated with new features, improvements, and content based on our community's feedback and changing needs. So we have a schedule for updates. So we already have updates planned. We already have listened to a lot of feedback as the initial build came from so much feedback. We will always be open to listening. We will always listen to what our community has to say, and we are constantly looking for and making improvements. So this is the beginning. This is only the beginning of Lab, and we cannot wait to roll out more. We will continue to create community based or content based on our community's feedback, and together we ensure that all of our users feel heard and seen, and that we can provide everything that you need and more. So if you can join us in just building a community around Lab, giving us feedback, and using every section and getting familiar, that we can help as many people as we can, all the way down to students, all the way down to instructors, all the way down to interventionists. We want to help as many people as we can with this platform, and that starts with you. Thanks a lot.